What if the secret to success has been hiding in your own mind all along, waiting to be unleashed through the power of controlled attention and definite purpose? You can grab your own copy of Napoleon Hill's transformative book, How to Own Your Own Mind, through the link in the video description below. Imagine having complete control over your thoughts, directing your mind's incredible power toward your greatest ambitions, and watching as your deepest desires transform into reality. This isn't fantasy. It's the fundamental premise of Napoleon Hill's groundbreaking work, How to Own Your Own Mind. Published posthumously in 2017, but written decades earlier, this book represents the culmination of Hill's lifelong study of the principles of success and the human mind's untapped potential. Napoleon Hill wasn't just any self-help author. As the man commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to study the patterns of success among the world's most accomplished individuals, Hill gained unprecedented access to figures like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Alexander Graham Bell. For over 20 years, he interviewed these titans of industry and innovation, distilling their wisdom into principles that anyone could apply. How to Own Your Own Mind builds upon his classic Think and Grow Rich, diving deeper into the mental mechanisms that separate extraordinary achievers from everyone else. At its core, this book addresses a paradox that plagues humanity. We possess minds of incredible capacity, yet most of us never learn to harness this power effectively. Instead, we allow our thoughts to wander aimlessly, react to circumstances rather than controlling them, and surrender our greatest asset, our ability to think independently and purposefully. Hill's mission is to reclaim this lost birthright and teach readers the art of mental mastery. The creative vision. The book begins by exploring what Hill calls creative vision, the ability to see opportunities and solutions that others miss. Unlike ordinary eyesight, creative vision operates through the imagination, allowing us to perceive possibilities that don't yet exist in physical form. Hill argues that this faculty separates true innovators from mere followers. Every major achievement, invention, or breakthrough began as a thought in someone's mind before manifesting in reality. The Wright brothers envisioned human flight before engineering it. Edison imagined the light bulb before creating it. Ford conceptualized the assembly line before implementing it. These weren't just idle daydreams. They were precise mental blueprints held with unwavering focus until physical creation became inevitable. According to Hill, creative vision isn't a rare gift bestowed upon a lucky few. It's a natural ability that can be developed through systematic training. The first step is recognizing that your imagination has two distinct forms: synthetic imagination, which rearranges existing ideas into new combinations, and creative imagination, which connects with infinite intelligence to receive genuinely original concepts. Most people rely primarily on synthetic imagination, taking what they already know and reconfiguring it. While valuable, this approach has limitations. True breakthroughs come from creative imagination, which Hill describes as a receiver that can tune into higher frequencies of thought. Through this faculty, you can access ideas that seem to come from beyond your conscious mind. Hill provides practical methods for cultivating creative vision. One powerful technique involves creating a definite chief aim, a precise statement of what you intend to achieve, accompanied by a deadline and a plan. By reviewing this statement daily with emotional intensity, you program your subconscious mind to seek opportunities and solutions related to your goal. Another method involves the invisible counselor's technique. Hill himself created an imaginary cabinet of advisors that included historical figures like Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Thomas Edison. Before sleep, he would conduct mental meetings with these counselors, presenting problems and receiving guidance. While acknowledging this might sound fanciful, Hill maintained that this practice produced insights and ideas he couldn't have generated through ordinary thinking. The development of creative vision also requires environmental factors. Hill emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with people who stimulate your thinking and challenge your assumptions. He warns against the deadening effect of routine and encourages readers to regularly expose themselves to new experiences, information, and perspectives that can spark fresh associations. Perhaps most importantly, creative vision demands emotional fuel. Hill observed that all great achievers were driven by intense desire for their objectives. This emotional energy provides the persistence necessary to hold a vision despite setbacks and criticism. Without sufficient desire, even the most brilliant idea will likely remain unrealized. Controlled attention, the master key. If creative vision represents the ability to conceive great ideas, controlled attention is the power to bring them into reality. Hill defines this faculty as the act of coordinating all the faculties of the mind and directing their combined power to a given end. In simpler terms, it's your ability to focus completely on one subject without distraction, a skill that has become increasingly rare in our age of constant interruptions. Hill believed controlled attention represented the highest form of self-discipline and the master key to all personal achievements. When you can direct your mental energy precisely where you choose for extended periods, you tap into depths of creativity and problem-solving ability unavailable to the scattered mind. Thomas Edison exemplified this principle. During his most productive years, Edison would work for days with minimal sleep, maintaining unwavering concentration on a single challenge. His famous statement that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration speaks directly to the power of sustained focus rather than momentary brilliance. The most valuable form of attention is what Hill calls coordinated effort, the ability to bring multiple mental faculties to bear on a single problem simultaneously. This includes logical reasoning, emotional energy, memory, imagination, and intuition all working together toward one objective. When achieved, this state produces insights and solutions that seem almost magical to observers. Developing controlled attention begins with physical discipline. Hill recommends starting with your body, practicing perfect stillness for increasing periods. Once you can control physical restlessness, progress to directing your thoughts deliberately. Begin with short sessions focused on a single idea or question, gradually extending the duration as your mental muscles strengthen. Environmental factors play a crucial role in attention training. Hill advises creating a dedicated space for serious thinking, a place free from distractions and associated with mental work. He was ahead of his time in recognizing how environment shapes cognition, noting that most people think best in spaces specifically designed for that purpose. Perhaps counterintuitively, Hill suggests that developing controlled attention requires regular periods of relaxation. The mind, like any instrument, performs best when alternating between tension and release. Brief intervals of complete mental rest between focus sessions enhance overall productivity rather than diminishing it. The rewards of mastering controlled attention extend far beyond professional achievements. Hill observed that people with this ability experienced greater peace of mind, emotional stability, and interpersonal influence. When you can direct your thoughts at will, you gain freedom from mental turbulence and reactivity that plague most individuals. Accurate thinking, separating fact from fiction. In an age where misinformation spreads faster than truth, Hill's chapter on accurate thinking feels remarkably prescient. He defines this faculty as the ability to separate facts from mere information, distinguish relevant facts from irrelevant ones, and organize facts into usable knowledge. Hill observed that most people form opinions based on prejudice, bias, and hearsay rather than verified facts. This habit leads to poor decisions and vulnerability to manipulation. The accurate thinker, by contrast, suspends judgment until gathering sufficient evidence, examines all sides of an issue, and remains willing to revise conclusions when new information emerges. The book outlines two essential forms of thinking: inductive reasoning, deriving general principles from specific observations, and deductive reasoning, applying general principles to specific situations. Hill argues that both are necessary for complete understanding, but most people rely too heavily on one approach while neglecting the other. A particularly valuable section addresses common thinking errors that undermine success. These include 1. The tendency to reach conclusions with insufficient evidence. 2. Confusion between facts and information. 3. Failure to distinguish between important and unimportant facts. 4. Allowing emotions to color rational analysis. 5. Inability to separate personal opinions from objective reality. 6. Dependence on absolute truths rather than relative evidence. To develop accurate thinking, Hill recommends forming the habit of writing down ideas and analyzing them on paper. This practice forces precision and reveals logical gaps that remain hidden in casual thought. He also suggests regularly playing devil's advocate with your own beliefs, deliberately seeking evidence that contradicts your preferred conclusions. Perhaps most powerfully, Hill advises creating a personal thinking system, a standardized process for evaluating important decisions. This might include questions like, what are the verifiable facts? What assumptions am I making? What are the potential consequences of each option? What biases might be influencing my judgment? By consistently applying such a framework, you elevate thinking from a haphazard activity to a reliable skill. Hill also emphasizes the value of collaborative thinking. He notes that the most successful individuals regularly engage others in analyzing problems, recognizing that diverse perspectives reveal blind spots and generate superior solutions. However, he cautions against confusing majority opinion with truth. Sometimes the accurate thinker must stand alone against prevailing beliefs. The ultimate test of thinking accuracy comes from results. If your conclusions consistently lead to positive outcomes, your thinking likely aligns with reality. Conversely, if you frequently encounter unexpected failures, your thought processes may contain fundamental errors requiring correction. The mastermind, harnessing collective intelligence. One of Hill's most influential concepts is the mastermind, the principle that two or more people working in harmony create a third, more powerful mind, capable of achievements beyond individual capacity. This isn't merely teamwork but something deeper, a genuine mental and spiritual fusion that multiplies rather than merely combines individual powers. Hill first observed this principle while studying Andrew Carnegie, who attributed much of his success to his mastermind alliance of approximately 50 individuals. Each brought specialized knowledge and abilities, but the group's power came from their coordinated purpose and mutual support rather than mere aggregation of skills. According to Hill, when minds unite in perfect harmony around a specific purpose, they establish a connection to infinite intelligence, a source of wisdom and inspiration beyond ordinary consciousness. This connection enables insights, solutions, and opportunities that wouldn't be available to disconnected individuals, no matter how brilliant. The book provides detailed guidance for creating your own mastermind group. Hill recommends beginning with just 2 or 3 carefully selected individuals who share your values and vision while offering complementary knowledge. The ideal members possess absolute integrity, willingness to give as much as they receive, and definite specialized knowledge valuable to the group's purpose. The mechanics of an effective mastermind involve regular meetings with structured agendas, complete candor among members, and willingness to share both successes and failures openly. Hill emphasizes that perfect harmony is essential. Personal conflicts or hidden agendas will disrupt the connection to higher intelligence that gives the alliance its power. Beyond practical benefits, Hill describes metaphysical dimensions of the mastermind principle. He believed that when minds unite in harmony, they create an energy field with properties similar to radio broadcasting, transmitting and receiving thoughts across distances. While this aspect may strike modern readers as speculative, contemporary research on collective intelligence and group flow states provides some scientific support for Hill's core observation that properly structured groups achieve results beyond the sum of individual capacities. The mastermind concept extends beyond formal alliances to include what Hill calls invisible counselors, the influence of individuals you admire but may never meet personally. By studying their words and deeds, then imaginatively consulting them during mental sessions, you can access aspects of their wisdom. This practice might be understood today as mentally modeling the expertise and perspective of role models. Applied faith, beyond mere belief. Hill distinguishes between ordinary religious faith and what he terms applied faith, the practical ability to act on beliefs without concrete evidence. This faculty represents the bridge between thought and manifestation, allowing ideas conceived through creative vision to become reality through persistent action despite uncertainty. Every significant achievement requires venturing into unknown territory where success isn't guaranteed. The person with applied faith moves forward confidently despite lack of proof, not from blind optimism, but from reasoned conviction based on principles they've verified through experience. This quality explains why some individuals persist through repeated failures, while others abandon worthy goals at the first setback. Hill identifies several characteristics of applied faith. 1. It's active rather than passive, expressing itself through definite actions. 2. It's selective, directed toward specific objectives rather than generalized hope. 3. It's based on understanding natural laws rather than supernatural intervention. 4. It grows stronger through use, becoming more reliable with each application. 5. It's contagious, inspiring similar confidence in others. 6. It's grounded in evidence and experience, not wishful thinking. Developing applied faith begins with small applications to build confidence. Hill suggests starting with minor objectives where success is likely, then gradually tackling larger challenges as your faith muscle strengthens. Each victory becomes evidence supporting future faith, creating a positive spiral of increasing capability. The most powerful catalyst for applied faith is desire. When your emotional commitment to an outcome is sufficiently intense, it overcomes doubt and hesitation. Hill observed that the most successful people weren't necessarily the most talented, but often those with the strongest desire for their objectives. Their emotional energy converted automatically into the faith needed for achievement. Another essential element is specialized knowledge. Applied faith isn't blind belief, but conviction based on understanding the principles governing your field. Edison's faith in eventually creating the light bulb came partly from his deep knowledge of electrical properties, even though the specific solution remained undiscovered. The more you understand about your domain, the more reasonable your faith becomes. Perhaps surprisingly, Hill identifies definite plans as crucial to applied faith. By creating detailed strategies for achieving your goals, you build confidence in your path forward. Even if these plans require revision, as they inevitably will, the very act of planning strengthens your belief in eventual success. Without concrete plans, faith remains abstract and ineffective. The chapter includes techniques for strengthening applied faith through autosuggestion, the practice of deliberately implanting productive beliefs in your subconscious through repeated affirmations. Hill provides specific statements to repeat daily, emphasizing that emotional conviction must accompany the words for this method to work effectively. Going the extra mile, the foundation of all success. While many of Hill's principles address mental faculties, going the extra mile focuses on the behavioral foundation underlying all achievement. This principle states that by consistently rendering more and better service than expected, you activate forces that eventually return multiplied benefits. Hill considered this the most important of his success principles because it creates opportunities for all others to operate. By delivering exceptional value, you naturally attract resources, relationships, and circumstances necessary for larger achievements. Conversely, without this foundation, other mental faculties may remain theoretical rather than practical. The concept contains several distinct elements. 1. Rendering more service than you're paid for currently. 2. Providing better quality than expected or required. 3. Maintaining a positive attitude while delivering this excess value. 4. Applying this principle consistently rather than occasionally. 5. Taking initiative without being asked or supervised. 6. Doing all this voluntarily rather than from obligation. Hill explains that this approach works through both practical and metaphysical mechanisms. Practically, it distinguishes you from competitors, builds valuable skills through extra practice, attracts attention from decision makers, and develops reputation capital. Metaphysically, Hill believed it aligns you with universal laws that ensure fair compensation for all service, though this return often comes through unexpected channels and timing. The psychological benefits of this principle are equally important. Going the extra mile develops self-respect and confidence that no external circumstance can provide. It shifts your mindset from entitlement to value creation, from scarcity to abundance. People who consistently apply this principle develop immunity to dejection and discouragement because their sense of worth comes from internal standards rather than external recognition. Hill addresses the common objection that this approach invites exploitation. He distinguishes between temporary situations and lifelong patterns, noting that while individual instances might seem unfair, the cumulative effect of this practice inevitably creates conditions where fair compensation becomes unavoidable. The marketplace ultimately values and rewards exceptional service, even if specific individuals fail to appreciate it. The book provides numerous examples of this principle in action, from young Thomas Edison volunteering to solve a critical telegraph problem after hours, leading to his first invention, to Henry Ford maintaining exceptional quality standards beyond customer expectations, revolutionizing an industry. In each case, short-term sacrifice led to long-term advantages impossible through any other approach. Particularly relevant today is Hill's observation that this principle becomes most valuable during economic downturns and competitive conditions. When jobs are scarce and businesses struggling, the person who consistently delivers more than expected stands out dramatically. Economic difficulty doesn't diminish the principle's effectiveness, but rather increases its comparative advantage. The power of personal initiative. Closely related to going the extra mile is what Hill calls personal initiative, the ability to act without being told, supervised, or incentivized by others. This quality represents freedom from one of humanity's most common limitations, waiting for permission or instruction before taking necessary action. Hill observed that approximately 98% of people never develop significant personal initiative. Instead, they operate primarily through external motivation, doing what they're told, following established routines, and waiting for opportunities to be presented rather than creating them. The remaining 2% who develop this quality naturally rise to leadership positions regardless of their starting circumstances. The core of personal initiative is recognizing that responsibility exists before it's assigned. The individual with this quality sees what needs doing and does it without being asked, often before others even recognize the need. This proactive stance creates value that reactive approaches cannot match, establishing a pattern of leadership that others naturally follow. Developing personal initiative requires overcoming deeply ingrained social conditioning. From childhood, most people learn to seek permission, follow rules, and wait for instructions. While these behaviors have appropriate contexts, they become limiting when applied universally. Hill suggests consciously practicing small acts of initiative daily to break this conditioning, looking for opportunities to act independently in low-risk situations until the habit becomes natural. The relationship between personal initiative and failure tolerance is particularly important. Hill notes that initiative inevitably leads to mistakes since you're operating without established guidelines. The willingness to accept responsibility for these errors, learning from them rather than avoiding them, distinguishes those who develop lasting initiative from those who retreat to comfortable conformity after initial setbacks. Perhaps counterintuitively, Hill identifies definite purpose as essential for sustainable initiative. Without clear direction, proactive energy disperses across too many projects, resulting in scattered efforts rather than meaningful achievement. The most powerful initiative focuses consistently on specific objectives rather than expressing itself through random activity. The chapter includes techniques for developing this quality through deliberate practice. Hill recommends creating a personal initiative journal where you record daily opportunities to take independent action and your response to each. This practice develops awareness of initiative opportunities that typically pass unnoticed and provides accountability for developing this crucial habit. Learning from adversity and defeat. While most success literature focuses on positive thinking and victory, Hill dedicates substantial attention to extracting value from setbacks and failures. He distinguishes between temporary defeat, which contains seeds of equivalent benefit when properly understood, and permanent failure, which results only from accepting defeat as final. Hill personally interviewed hundreds of highly successful individuals and discovered that virtually all had experienced significant failures, often many more than their less accomplished counterparts. The difference wasn't in avoiding defeat, but in their response to it. They developed the capacity to extract lessons, maintain perspective, and convert apparent disasters into stepping stones toward eventual success. The book outlines a systematic approach to handling setbacks. 1. Accept responsibility without blaming circumstances or others. 2. Identify specific factors that contributed to the outcome. 3. Determine which factors were within your control and which weren't. 4. Extract specific lessons for future application. 5. Develop modified plans incorporating these lessons. 6. Take immediate action on the revised approach. 7. Maintain emotional equilibrium throughout this process. This methodology transforms defeat from an emotional experience to an educational one. The pain of failure becomes valuable tuition rather than wasted suffering. Hill emphasizes that this perspective shift requires deliberate choice. The natural tendency is to respond emotionally through discouragement, self-pity, or blame, all of which prevent extracting benefit from the experience. Particularly valuable is Hill's concept of temporary defeat. He argues that most so-called failures are merely steps in the success process, appearing negative only because we lack perspective on the full journey. Many major breakthroughs occur immediately after apparent failures because the setback forces reevaluation and new approaches that wouldn't have emerged through continuous smooth progress. Thomas Edison exemplified this principle. During his light bulb experiments, he tested over 10,000 materials before finding a viable filament. When asked about these failures, Edison famously replied that he hadn't failed but had successfully identified 10,000 materials that wouldn't work, essential knowledge for eventual success. This reframing transformed apparent defeats into progress markers rather than discouraging setbacks. Hill also addresses the relationship between adversity and personal growth. He observed that hardship often develops qualities essential for significant achievement: resilience, resourcefulness, humility, and perspective that cannot be cultivated through continuous ease. Many of history's most accomplished individuals credit their greatest challenges as catalysts for their most important strengths. The chapter includes practical techniques for maintaining emotional stability during difficult periods. Hill recommends immediately focusing attention on next steps rather than dwelling on what went wrong, deliberately seeking positive aspects within negative situations, and surrounding yourself with optimistic individuals who maintain perspective during challenges. Perhaps most importantly, Hill emphasizes developing advanced preparation for inevitable setbacks. By anticipating potential obstacles and preparing contingency plans before problems arise, you transform emergencies into manageable situations. This foresight prevents the panic and poor judgment that typically accompany unexpected challenges. The Golden Rule, applied to business. While most people encounter the Golden Rule in religious or ethical contexts, Hill presents it as a practical success principle with direct application to business and professional life. His version, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, if you were in their place," acknowledges the importance of understanding others' unique circumstances rather than assuming their needs match yours. Hill considered this principle the foundation of all sustainable success for two primary reasons. First, treating others fairly and considerately builds relationship capital essential for long-term achievement in any field. Second, your treatment of others shapes your own character and self-image in ways that ultimately determine your capacity for success. The book explores specific applications of this principle across various domains. In management, the Golden Rule means recognizing employees as whole people with legitimate needs and ambitions, rather than mere productivity tools. Hill observed that the most effective leaders actively support their team members' professional development, even when it eventually means losing them to better opportunities. This approach paradoxically inspires greater loyalty and productivity, while creating valuable allies throughout an industry. In sales and marketing, the principle manifests as genuinely serving customer interests rather than manipulating them for profit. Hill emphasizes that sustainable business stems from creating actual value for others, not merely extracting maximum revenue through clever tactics. The most successful businesses he studied maintained customer relationships spanning decades because they consistently prioritized customer welfare over short-term gain. In negotiation, applying the Golden Rule means seeking genuinely fair arrangements that benefit all parties rather than maximizing personal advantage at others' expense. Hill believed that win-lose transactions generate hidden costs through damaged relationships, reputation harm, and karmic consequences that eventually outweigh any immediate benefits from hardball tactics. Perhaps most importantly, Hill connects this principle to mental peace and happiness. He observed that individuals who consistently exploit or mistreat others develop internal discord regardless of external success. The psychological burden of maintaining different faces for different situations creates stress that undermines health, relationships, and ultimately achievement itself. The chapter addresses common objections to applying this principle in competitive environments. Many assume that ethical behavior represents a disadvantage in cutthroat fields. Hill counters with numerous examples of individuals and organizations that maintained high standards while achieving remarkable success, from major industrialists to innovative startups. Their ethical approach didn't handicap their progress, but rather distinguished them from competitors and created sustainable advantages impossible through manipulation. Hill acknowledges that applying this principle involves navigating complex real-world situations rather than following simplistic formulas. The genuine needs of different stakeholders sometimes conflict, requiring wisdom beyond mechanical rule-following. The principle provides orientation rather than specific instructions, demanding thoughtful application tailored to each circumstance. Cosmic Habit Force, the ultimate success principle. In the book's most philosophical chapter, Hill introduces the concept of cosmic habit force, the universal tendency for all things to seek equilibrium through established patterns. this principle operates throughout nature, from atoms following electromagnetic laws to planets maintaining orbital patterns to organisms developing consistent behaviors. In human life, this force manifests primarily through habits, patterns of thought and action that, once established, tend to continue with minimal conscious effort. Hill believed that understanding and harnessing this force represents the ultimate success strategy because it aligns personal development with a fundamental law of the universe. The power of habit force explains why changing established patterns requires substantial initial effort, but becomes progressively easier with consistent practice. The force initially resists new behaviors, but eventually reinforces them once they become established. This principle explains both why destructive habits persist despite negative consequences and why positive habits eventually become nearly automatic. Hill outlines a systematic process for utilizing this force. 1. Identify specific habit essential for your success objectives. 2. Create clear, detailed visualizations of yourself practicing these habits. 3. Act in accordance with these visualizations consistently for at least 21 days. 4. Maintain extreme vigilance during this formation period, allowing no exceptions. 5. Surround yourself with environmental cues that reinforce desired patterns. 6. Associate with others who maintain similar habits. 7. Attach strong emotional significance to both the habits and their outcomes. The most powerful application of cosmic habit force involves mental patterns rather than merely physical actions. Hill emphasizes developing habitual thought patterns related to purpose, faith, initiative, and positive expectations. Once established, these mental habits automatically generate corresponding behaviors without requiring constant willpower or conscious decision. Particularly important is what Hill calls the habit of finishing, consistently completing what you begin despite obstacles and distractions. He observed that this single pattern separates high achievers from eternally promising individuals who never quite fulfill their potential. The completion habit, once established through cosmic habit force, virtually guarantees eventual success because most people abandon worthy projects before reaching fruition. The chapter connects habit force to natural laws of cause and effect, emphasizing that this principle operates with perfect reliability when properly understood and applied. Unlike capricious fortune or luck, habit force responds consistently to specific inputs, making success systematic rather than accidental for those who master its operation. Hill also addresses the relationship between habit force and environment. He notes that physical surroundings and social connections powerfully influence habit formation, either supporting or undermining desired patterns. Creating environments specifically designed to reinforce productive habits represents one of the most effective applications of this principle, a strategy employed by virtually all high achievers he studied. The metaphysical aspects of cosmic habit force receive particular attention in this chapter. Hill believed this principle connects individual minds to universal intelligence, allowing access to wisdom and inspiration beyond personal experience. Through properly formed habits of receptivity and expression, you can become a channel for ideas originating beyond your conscious capacities. Definite purpose, the starting point of all achievement. While purpose appears throughout the book, Hill dedicates a specific chapter to this foundational concept, the clearly defined objective that becomes the organizing principle for all other success factors. Without definite purpose, even the most powerful mental faculties dissipate through lack of direction. Hill distinguishes between general desires, I want to be successful, and definite purpose, I will establish a manufacturing company producing specific products for a specific market, reaching $10 million in sales within 5 years. The former provides minimal guidance for daily decisions, while the latter creates a standard against which all activities can be measured for relevance and effectiveness. The process of establishing definite purpose begins with self-analysis, identifying your natural abilities, acquired skills, available resources, and authentic interests. Hill provides a comprehensive inventory for this assessment, emphasizing that sustainable purpose must align with your genuine nature rather than merely chasing external symbols of success. Once identified, purpose must be formalized through specific language that includes measurable outcomes and timeframes. Hill recommends writing this statement by hand daily, preferably immediately before sleep and upon waking when the subconscious mind is most receptive to programming. This practice establishes the purpose as a dominant thought that gradually reorganizes all mental faculties around its achievement. The relationship between purpose and desire receives particular attention. Hill observed that achievement correlates more directly with emotional intensity than with intellectual capability. When desire reaches sufficient temperature, it automatically activates creative vision, applied faith, personal initiative, and other success faculties. Without this emotional fuel, even brilliant plans typically remain unrealized. Purpose must be communicated selectively rather than indiscriminately. Hill warns against sharing your primary objectives with individuals likely to respond with doubt or discouragement. Instead, discuss your plans primarily with those who offer constructive feedback and emotional support. This selective transparency protects your purpose during its vulnerable developmental stages. The chapter addresses common obstacles to establishing definite purpose, including 1. Fear of criticism for ambitious goals. 2. Uncertainty about natural abilities and authentic interests. 3. Negative environmental influences that discourage clear direction. 4. The drift habit of following paths of least resistance. 5. Conflicting desires that create indecision and scattered efforts. Hill provides specific techniques for overcoming each obstacle, emphasizing that purpose development requires deliberate process rather than passive waiting for inspiration. The most effective approach involves creating designated periods for purpose clarification, regular intervals where you disconnect from daily demands to reconnect with fundamental life direction. Perhaps most valuably, Hill explains that purpose naturally evolves over time as circumstances change and understanding deepens. Rather than rigidly adhering to outdated objectives, effective individuals regularly refine their purpose while maintaining core direction. This balanced approach combines stability with adaptability, creating sustainable progress through changing conditions. Conclusion: the mind as the ultimate resource. As the book concludes, Hill returns to his central theme. The human mind represents the ultimate resource for achievement, happiness, and meaning. Unlike external resources that can be depleted, lost, or taken away, mental faculties grow stronger with use and remain accessible regardless of circumstances. The individuals who truly own their minds possess freedom and capability beyond ordinary comprehension. They create rather than merely consume, direct their lives through internal guidance rather than external pressure, and maintain equilibrium through changing fortunes. This mental sovereignty represents the highest form of wealth, one impervious to economic cycles, competitive pressures, or technological disruptions. Hill emphasizes that mind ownership comes through systematic development rather than passive inheritance. Just as physical fitness requires deliberate training, mental mastery demands conscious cultivation of specific faculties. This process never truly ends but continues throughout life, with each level of development revealing new capacities previously hidden from view. The concluding chapters provide an integrated framework for applying all principles simultaneously rather than sequentially. Hill recognized that these mental faculties operate as an interconnected system rather than isolated components. Creative vision fuels definite purpose, purpose directs controlled attention, Accurate thinking guides action. Cosmic habit force maintains momentum. When all elements function harmoniously, achievement becomes natural rather than forced. Perhaps most importantly, Hill connects success principles to deeper human fulfillment. The ultimate purpose of mastering your mind isn't merely accumulating wealth or prestige, but creating a life of meaning, contribution, and joy. The same faculties that generate material achievement also produce inner peace, fulfilling relationships, and spiritual growth when directed toward these outcomes. The book closes with a call to action, beginning the process of mind mastery immediately rather than waiting for perfect understanding or ideal circumstances. Hill observed that the primary difference between achievers and dreamers wasn't knowledge but implementation. Even imperfect application of these principles produces greater results than perfect understanding without action. By taking ownership of your mind through the systematic development of its faculties, you claim your birthright as a creative force rather than a reactive object. In Hill's view, this represents not merely a path to individual success, but humanity's collective destiny, the gradual awakening to our inherent mental powers and their application toward ever greater achievements. If you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing book insights. Leave a comment below sharing which mental faculty you're most interested in developing first. Your engagement helps our community grow and allows us to continue bringing you high-quality content. Remember, the ultimate power lies not in the books we read, but in how we apply their wisdom to our lives. Thanks for watching, and until next time, own your mind, own your future.